Welcome to Getting Raw. It's Richard Mark Detergy, and today I'm with Andrew Simmons. Welcome.
Thanks, mate.
Andrew, if you don't know, he's the mastermind, the brains behind Vision PT. It's like basically you're the personal training McDonald's. I think that's a good way to sum it up. McDonald's is the leader in their fast food franchise, and Andrew is dominating the personal training industry. I think it's a great interview because I think personal trainers aspire to one day have their own studio, get more studios, get more staff, and you're the king of the mountain right now. So I really want to know how you've done it. That's the most important thing.
Sure.
So take me back though where you actually started.
It was became a fitness first club in Sylvania.
Right.
And I basically grew up in a gym environment. I was really passionate about sport my whole life as a young kid, and basically thought, look, I went to school to play sport pretty much.
Right.
You know, those things you did between 9 and 3 were pretty much recovery sessions for me. So needless to say, my grades at school weren't too crash hot.
Mm-hmm.
So just decided, well, you know, I needed to sort of pursue something to do with sport when I finished, but I really didn't know what at the time, and I played so many sports at school that I really was pretty unfocused at the time as to which way I was going to go, because when I went through school I was pretty much told what to do. I went to a private boys' school in Sydney, so my life was very much mapped out for me surrounding sport. When I left school though, I had really no idea what the hell I was going to do.
Right.
And I was really grateful that my parents had basically put me through my whole schooling, and I've been in a private school system. My mum worked pretty much to put me through the private school system, and I was really grateful for that, and I didn't want to have to rely on them, so I thought I'd go get a full-time job, and I'll follow my mates into what they were doing. So,
right. All sports orientated then?
Yeah, well actually it wasn't sports orientated. I went into the world of chartered accounting, and
right,
I worked in a chartered accounting firm for 2 years on a full-time basis and studied part-time, which many people would know for me was the dark side of my life. In working in an accounting firm, I was no good at it, and sometimes people get confused. They say, oh geez, you must be good at accounting. Well mate, I'm actually not good at all at accounting.
But did you learn the systems? You must have learned something from that.
Yeah,
You must have some good
mate, I just learned about professionalism.
Right.
That was the biggest thing, and I realised that after being involved in a small gym, actually, funny enough, the gym I used to go to when I was working as an accountant is literally about 7 or 8 doors up the road. It no longer exists. But I sort of saw that it was actually a real sort of family orientated gym. It was actually I suppose the professionalism at the time wasn't really around in the industry. And
it was the heydays. It was still when Arnold was down the gyms, companies on it, and leotards to aerobics, wasn't it? And that's the time it started.
Pretty much, mate. And I remember standing in the back of aerobics classes with my sister, and we did aerobics classes together when I was sort of moved from the gym floor, so I snuck in the back of an aerobics class to muck around and have some fun. And I was terrible, but you're right, mate. There were the long leotards, there was the G-string with the leg warmers.
Yeah.
That's what the instructors were pretty much wearing at the time, so it wasn't all bad. Yeah.
All right, so you started with that, and then you stepped into it. You started obviously personal training then.
Yeah, I finished up my exercise. My accounting course when I did that part time for 2 years, and I just realised that was no good for me. So I went and studied exercise science full time at the University of New South Wales. Yeah. And I wanted to continue in income, and I killed it in the first couple of years in accounting. I got paid $14.5 grand in my first year,
right, and
$16.5 grand in the second year. So the $2 grand pay rise was huge. But then I was given the opportunity to work in a gym. So down at Sylvania Physical, I was employed by Pete and Fiona Cosgrove down there on the reception desk. Yeah. And that was awesome at that time. And I went through uni. We were doing full-time uni, worked part-time on the reception desk and teaching circuit classes. That was awesome from the first year. And then I moved into the aerobics room. And
and did your stuff in the aerobics,
I did my stuff in the aerobics, mate. I was on stage doing the stuff. I was hopeless at doing that, but because I got to know the members by working behind reception, they accepted me. So that was I was really fortunate that I was able to.
So you just did the same aerobics routine time and time again?
Mate, pretty much for the first I started with a thing called New Body.
Right.
Mate, it was good. New Body was awesome for me because it was really slow.
Yep.
The music was slow, so I could keep up with it rather than doing the high energy stuff. And then I did some basic step stuff because again the music was slow, so I was able to get myself coordinated. But that was really cool. And then just worked on the gym floor part time from the second years 2 and 3 of uni. And then after I'd finished my exercise science, I started as a PT in the club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you grew from there.
And grew from there. Probably the biggest thing was my involvement with Les Mills. Okay. At the end of '95, when Les Mills came across to New Zealand, Pete and Fiona had the foresight to say that was going to be something pretty big. So we were like the second or third gym in Australia to get body pump.
Yep.
and was fortunate enough to get in contact with a guy named Stephen Renata, who's one of the international partners, and he and I hit it off from the start. It was great, similar rugby and triathlon backgrounds and that. And, we became mates, and I ended up travelling the country, with him in the early times, teaching instructors how to do body pump.
Right.
So it was really it was a Les Mills influence, mate. That really made a difference for me.
It sounds like the systems came from there. Obviously, accountancy was bad, but I think you've got to have systems from there, and it comes from system professionals from there.
I think the biggest thing that I noticed was when I was travelling around the gyms doing Les Mills, I could see that there was no professionalism in the industry. I mean, sure, they were nice people and all the rest of it, but in terms of the actual standards from what I was used to in the professional world of accounting, like it was just chalk and
So interesting. So basically, you've gone from an industry that has the standards, that's been more established, way more established than fitness. Bang, you put them straight into fitness. So I think that's a really big key right there.
Because that's massive.
Huge. Vision's been around for 10 plus years. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's August '99.
August '99.
Started.
Okay. Yeah. And to get to where you are today, you got 47. Is that the count right now? So if I put this up in a month, will it be 48 or what?
Mate, probably not in a month, but we've got some growth plans for next year.
Massive growth plans, I'm sure. So you've got 47 at the moment, and so I really want to talk about the struggles to get to 47, because you will see a lot of trainers out there that have a couple studios. They'll have one, they'll have two. They struggle with the second, they struggle with the first. Where there must be a limit to where you can get to a stage, and you're doing everything by yourself, get to 3 or 4 or 5, whatever it is, and then there's got to be a shift, there's got to be a change.
Yeah.
Where was the growth point for you with the number of studios you had?
I mean, the hardest one was going from 1 to 2.
Right, so that is the hardest.
Mate, no doubt the hardest was 1 to 2. It was about realising how to provide a career path for the guys coming through. So in the early times, we talked about franchising for like 4 or 5 years, if not longer. I thought, I'm going to franchise, like I'm sure so many trainers say, or I'm going to franchise.
It's the pinnacle, everyone wants a franchise, that's what they want to do.
But mate, it was a case of that you just don't go and franchise.
Yeah.
You basically got to, even from the systems, like I never set up Vision to franchise it.
Right.
I set up Vision to provide systems that our trainers could use, and that's what I think a lot of people get confused by. They think I was actually always going to franchise. No, I got sick to death of when I was working in the club, which became Fitness First. There was all these trainers speaking with different languages.
Yep.
So one trainer would be talking about the latest one set to failure training technique or overload principle, low carb diet, no carb diet, and I didn't like that because I just realised that my involvement with Les Mills was when everyone was going for a common goal and following a set structure, you became a team and everyone grew faster. So all I wanted to do was make sure that my trainers were all speaking the same language to get results for clients, because a lot of clients weren't getting results.
I think that's the biggest thing as well. I mean, obviously having a franchise of 47, you've got to be very clear on it's this way or the highway. Yeah. Otherwise, you're exactly right, it gets wishy-washy. And
so all those systems were actually built not for a franchise, to franchise it per se. It was actually just to make sure that I had systems so that all the trainers, we had 16 trainers down here at one time, and we had to make sure they were on the same page, speaking the same language. And that evolved, we had all the great PT systems that were able to, so that trainers could follow. The next struggle was to actually make sure that the business model was there, so that it was actually franchisable.
And so I guess the hard thing and the thing a lot of hours and probably people don't see is the systems, creating these systems. Who created them? How did you create them?
Mate, it was done literally between the hours of 9 and 2 in the morning.
9 and 2.
So it was like, you finish your normal day and then your system day starts. And that's what I did, to sit up late at night at a computer. I still do all that sort of stuff, like I might leave here, but I go home and sit on a computer all the hours in the morning, That's right. And that's what I spent a lot of time doing in the early times, was creating those systems myself. And I really had a lot of support from sort of a few of the key early trainers that I had. They obviously contributed to the evolution of it. But I suppose that's me. I'm just the system sort of guy, and that's probably.
So your key is systems.
Yeah,
your IP is all about systems.
Yeah,
that's what makes you the systems.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So going those systems and going to the second studio, then, do you own the second studio, or did you actually?
No, it was franchised straight away. I mean, really, I realised that unless I franchised Vision Carrying Bar, which is where we are today, the first one, mate, it was never going to survive, because I lost so many trainers. They came through and they wanted to have an opportunity to grow. So I was either they were going to grow with Vision or they were going to grow outside of Vision. And that was what happened. A lot of guys actually grew outside of Vision, so most of the competition around here are my former trainers.
Former trainers,
so that was...
and that was before you sort of Retail franchises went out and did some stuff.
Yeah, because we always talked about it. And then I realised that some of the key guys, sometimes got, say, 2 or 3 away, and they were in the franchise. I had to make sure they were successful. That was the key to it. My early guys had to be successful.
And so, say that first 2, 3, 4, they're the ones you just put more time and focus on before you had that big growth spurt?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I remember you had a few there, and then all of a sudden, bang, next thing I know, there's 47.
Yeah, well, it took us 5.5 years to get to 6 studios.
Okay.
So
5.5 years to get to 6 studios,
yeah.
And then you had 41 in the other
and the next
95. So that I think is key, and that's sort of leads me to what I want to talk about is focus. I mean, to have that big vision of, okay, I want whatever that number you want, and then knowing that 5.5 years is a struggle, it's the late nights, it's the stuff people don't see, it's probably being very stressed.
From a financial point of view, like, the model was in the first few years of actually having vision itself in Caringbah, even though from an outsider's perspective we won National PT Business of the Year in 2003, but we're almost broke. Because from a results perspective, we knew how to get results, but mate, from a business model, we're terrible. Even when we had I spent my time pretty much working full time in the franchising side, but I was my Caringbah studio was actually making the money. I hardly made any money from the franchising for the first 5 years.
So for 5 years with a franchise model, and that's where I believe. I mean, unless you go past that number, right, it's tough.
Yeah.
As you're telling us, it's tough.
Yeah.
And then you can start to actually get some results, but you got to stay focused.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you get through to stay focused? Like, how do you continue to know that I'm doing it and I'm going to get to that number I want? Like, what are your tricks?
No, I think it's just okay. The reason for starting Vision, really, franchising, was to provide careers for people.
Okay. And
that's what it's been all about. I mean, I want to get results, and so we've talked about what we're passionate about at Vision.
Sure.
That's decreasing diabetes, and then providing careers for people. If I can't provide careers for people, I can't then decrease diabetes.
Why are you so passionate about providing careers for people?
Mate, because I've seen too many of my friends actually fall out of the industry and go back and having jobs they hated. But they're doing the stuff that I was doing for those first 2 years.
Yeah, sure.
When I worked in a chartered accounting firm and I hated what I did, and then I went through uni, and most of the guys I went through uni with are doing other things because they said, there's no career in fitness. You can't have a career in fitness. I saw the model actually working in a gym. Clubs are costing millions of dollars to set up, but there's no progression for people who are coming through as trainers.
To continue through it.
Yeah, so I thought, well, I just want to be able to do that. And when you see a trainer come into our network and then get grown, and then they have the opportunity to have their own studio, to me that is awesome. I love that.
That's what drives you.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what keeps you up at night.
Yeah.